No, he's not back. Yeah.
I'm gonna add one other thing.
Okay.
Tolerated it well.
We have
Oh, that's right, it was.
we have a TV
Yeah, it
with a
was.
stand.
Family could be.
It can go both ways, but
We have a large screen TV with a stand,
1 second.
which I'm gonna mention.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that's also we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
develop guidelines for that as well.
Oh, right,
They're not in
right.
there yet, so we have to work with management to develop that.
Develop, okay,
So I'm gonna say that as well as the
Perfect.
fire table for development.
good. Okay, that's perfect.
Okay.
Oh,
Leave the screen up until you're ready to do your thing, or you're gonna do that right away?
you know, I'm gonna do it pretty soon, but
So I went on the website and found out there was.
is it distracting?
I think that's distracting.
Well, then go ahead and put it up. No, go ahead and put it up, that's fine. And I've got a test here, so the microphone's good.
You're good for sound.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Well, and to take the old,
thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
but it,
meeting with Keen Heyman next
Yeah.
Thursday
Okay,
on regarding the men of York changing the LP valves, both the fire table and the grill. And Michael is consider moving the LP valves up onto the North Plaza and lock the
good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I know you could be down at the concert, although they might get rained out, so I'm glad you're here. And thank you to those of you who are watching from your apartments, which also leads me to say, if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone, because I watched the last board report after the fact, and I noticed when people ask questions sometimes, well, I have a loud voice, I can speak from the back of the room, but when I was watching it, I could not hear the questions. So it's helpful for everyone who's watching, whether you're in the room or you're in an apartment, to wait for the microphone to get to you. All right? Wonderful. So why do we do this board reporting anyway? It's another way for us to communicate with you about what's happening with the board and what's going on with the cooperative. You hear Mitch speak the week before, usually on Wednesday at the management meeting. He goes through all kinds of things that are happening in the cooperative. And then it's time after the board meeting for us to communicate with you even further about things that the board has decided or where we're going on such and such a topic. And as you know, there are always repairs. So first, I want to say thank you to the Fun and Games Committee, because last Saturday there was the first time that the plaza had seen outdoor games since it's been repaired, and I understand that there were many people there. I was not here on Saturday, so I was very disappointed I couldn't attend, but I heard there was good attendance, and it sounds like something that should happen frequently this summer. So thank you very much to the Fun and Games Committee. Also, I want to shout out to the Landscape Committee, Betty Stacy and Kathy Erberg, for all of their work on the Hidden Garden. If you have not seen the Hidden Garden, which is on the west side, you need to go take a look at it. It is gorgeous. And thank you to them and to all those who are gardeners, those who weed and chat, and those who are serving on all of those committees, the Landscape Committee. Another committee that rarely gets any recognition is the Bulletin Board Committee. And boy, do we get a lot of information in the elevators with the bulletin boards, the elevator lobbies, and the bulletin boards outside the elevators. And thank you to Janet Merrill, who is the chairperson of that committee, and all the work that those people do to keep us up to date. So when there's an event that is canceled, oftentimes they're rushing into the elevators to put the little canceled sign on there, so we're still informed as to what's going on. I know LD is not here, but we need to thank him for his creation of the emergency response plan that he's put together for us. And we know, if you watch York TV at all, you know, if you see the slides that scroll, what do you do when the fire alarm sounds? You stay in your unit or what? You evacuate. Yes, if you are able, you evacuate. And if you are not able, you stay in your unit, you call 911 and tell them where you are. So that's a really important thing, and thanks to LD for putting all that together and for the slides to show on York TV so that we keep getting that reminder. There's been a little delay in the boardroom moving from the third floor to the second floor. And that's because when the new table was delivered, it has 2 bases. One of the bases was damaged, so we can't use that table until it's repaired. But we have the new office chairs, which will be much more comfortable than the ones that are on the 3rd floor for meetings that go on forever. As board members can attest, last week's meeting went on until 2:45. Yeah, that's not going to happen again. I promise. But you have the ability now to sign up for a committee meeting, whatever kind of a meeting you're having. If you want to use the 3rd floor, that room is now considered the 3rd floor meeting room, and the board room is on the 2nd floor. It is available for use as well. So you can sign up for that if you know how to go on to in the Belay system and look at the calendar. You can put your name in for your committee and wait for approval, but that should make it a lot easier. We'll have more spaces for committees to meet, which will be great. The other thing about the board reports, you may have noticed now we had one in June already, and now here we are having another one in June. And if you look at the calendar for July, it does not show a board report in July at all. Now, why is that? Well, it's because the board meeting is on the 29th of July. The following Sunday is in August. So we will be having board report meetings the Sunday following the actual board meeting. So that's kind of why we had 2 in June. Partly I was gone, but there was that. Okay, so now I have something kind of exciting to show you. Julie, can we have the screen, please? I think it's, if you ever had to change, if you had a house and you had a boiler in your house, did you ever have to change it? I did. I had one of those great big round things that was covered with asbestos, and I had to have asbestos abatement, and then I got my new boiler. And the boiler was about this big, you know, compared to this giant round thing. So this is a picture of what our boiler room now looks like. You know, the old boilers, they had to cut up and take out because they were too big to fit through the doorway. You know, they built the room around the boilers when they built the place. So these are the 2 new boilers that will run on natural gas. So we do not have a boiler that runs on fuel. That's one photo, and I have one more. They are, it's a different angle, but the same, oops. I'll go over here. Oh, yeah, okay. So you're just looking at it from a different angle. So we've got 2 new boilers. They're beautiful, they're slim, it's clean in there. Someday maybe we'll take a tour of the boiler room if you'd like to. All right. I just thought you might be interested in that project that cost us over $1 million. And we have 2 new boilers, and they will be functioning very well for us and more efficiently than what we've had in the past. So, sure. Yay! Thank you, Don. All right. Next up, where is she? Rianne. Yes, I'm ready for you. Rianne is going to talk to us about the new policy that has been developed, 1.7. And you have a handout that you got when you came in the door. There you go.
All right, thank you. Mm-hmm. Let me just move these papers. Well, as you may recall from prior meetings, the board has been involved in updating all the policies that were on the books for 7500 York. And we finished that project, and now we're undertaking putting in writing the policies that are needed for other parts of our life here at 7500 York. The reality has been that there have been some traditions There have been some spoken guidelines, some spoken policies, but they haven't been written down. And so the board is now identifying policies that need to be written down so that we can have a clear understanding, we can have consistency across the board, and hopefully the policies will answer many of the questions that come up from people who want to do things here at 7500 York. Believe it or not, we did not have a policy for committees or for interest groups, even though they've existed since this building was built. So we have spent at least 3 months, probably closer to 4 months this spring, studying the issues that need to be written down for committees and interest groups. We have loads of committees here, as you know, and they have operated quite efficiently, but some of them have operated very differently from the others. So what we tried to do in putting these policies together was identify the most important things that all committees need to observe so that we can make it easier for people to understand what they can do and how they can do it, and how they can arrange rooms for meetings and so forth. So I'm going to go through this policy with you, and then I'll take questions if you have questions that you would like to ask tonight. The policy, I won't read every word because you can do that, but we identify that we have basically 5 types of committees here at 7500 York. The standing committees are appointed by the board to do particular things that apply to the whole building, and the standing committees generally consist of 7 members. If the board needed to make a change to that, they could, but they generally consist of 7 members. The resident activities subcommittees are the ones that provide for the amenities and the activities that we have here. The resident activity subcommittees can have as many people on the committee as they need to get the work done. I know from my years as the chair of the Music and Arts Committee that we varied one year from 12 members to another year 15 members. It depends on what that committee does. And the interesting thing about the Resident Activities Committee is that they come under RAC, which is the big Resident Activities Committee at the top. It's not a committee you can sign up for. That's a committee that's made up of the chairperson of each of the 17 RAC committees. They get together once a month. They have a chairperson, they have a vice chairperson, and they share the ideas of what's going on with all the committees. So we have another category that we called other subcommittees. These could be subcommittees of the standing committees. For instance, health and wellness is a standing committee, and the social room committee is a subcommittee of that. And there are lots of other examples. And they help with things in the building and so forth. And then we have ad hoc committees. A committee that's just coming to its conclusion is the Ad Hoc Committee on the Plaza, because that was appointed by the board about a year ago to take charge of ordering furniture and so forth for the plaza. Ad hoc committees have a specific purpose. They exist to complete that purpose, that task, and then they go out of existence. And the ad hoc committees are established by the board for a specific purpose, and they may include as many members as are appropriate. The Lab 23 committee, for instance, is an ad hoc committee that is quite large, whereas the Plaza committee had 7 members. And then we have the nominating committee, which is its own animal, and it has its own rules that operate in the spring of the year, winter and spring. The committee here runs from May 1st through April 30th, but the cooperative's fiscal year remains January 1st through December 31st. And sometimes that's a challenging issue for committees to deal with, but that's how the calendar runs. Now, the thing that is going to add to consistency, we hope, is the next paragraph, because we know that we have the volunteer fair in March when people can sign up for committees. And April is the month when committees would look at who their new members are and make sure that they have the number of new members that they need. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's at the first meeting each May when the committee confirms the new members, they invite the new members to that first meeting in May. They elect their officers in May, not in April. And that the review of their charter should be done every year. And if there are any revisions to the charter, that goes to the board of directors for approval. And then at the May meeting of the board, the chair appoints who the board members are that will be liaisons to the committees. Now, leadership roles. The board members, we board members, do not generally serve on committees except for ad hoc committees. And the standing committee chairperson may participate in other committees, although they shall not serve as chair of one committee without, more than one committee without board approval. Standing committee chairpersons are very busy people, and so that's why we have that part of the policy. As I mentioned before, the Resident Activity Committee consists of a chair and a vice chair, along with the chairs of all the subcommittees. Each committee may determine the leadership roles that best support its work, because a committee may only need a chair and a secretary. However, a committee may decide they need a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and maybe a treasurer if they deal with money. And then the officers would be elected at the first meeting in May. And committee chairs shall attend the training sessions that are held in the spring. This year they were held in June. And other committee leaders, of course, are welcome to attend. Committee membership. This is where there have been a lot of questions that have come up lately. The cooperative provides an opportunity through the volunteer fair for members to express interest in the committee service they want to provide or to do. And members may volunteer for many committees. However, they may serve on only one standing committee and one additional committee per year, or 2 subcommittees at a time. Because committees are busy with a lot of projects they need to do, and everyone who participates in a committee, serves on a committee, is expected to be active doing the work of that committee. If a member is offered 2 standing committee positions, which has happened, then either committee may request a waiver from the board, or the member may choose the one standing committee that they wish to serve on. And then they would notify the other committees that they would not be interested or not able to serve on those. If a member is selected for 2 subcommittees, they will be asked to choose for more than 2 subcommittees, they will be asked to choose which committee they wish to serve on. So if somebody volunteers, signs up for 4 different committees and they're chosen for all 4, they'll need to look at the list and decide which 2 they would like to be part of and notify the others that they're not going to be serving on that. Second, the committee terms are generally limited to 3 consecutive years. The one exception we had was during COVID, where everybody could extend another year. And after completing a 3-year term, members are asked to take a 1-year break before serving another 3 years on the same committee. So when you serve 3 years on a committee and you love that committee, go off for a year and you can go back on for another 3 years. You can go off a year, you can go on for another 3 years. And you can have a perpetual volunteer role like that. If a member cannot complete the 3-year term, which often happens, then the committee officers may invite any eligible cooperative member to complete the remainder of that 3-year term. Service in a partial term does not affect eligibility for a subsequent full 3-year term. So if for some reason somebody needs to leave a committee, say after a year and a half, the chair of that committee can appoint another member of the community. Now, they can't already be serving on 2 committees, and this would be a third, but they can appoint a person to fill out that year and a half. Then that person is automatically eligible to run for another 3-year term. They aren't limited to just another year and a half. Then if more members volunteer than a committee can accommodate, if you have 20 people sign up for your committee and you can't have 20 on your committee, it would be too big, then ranked choice voting by a quorum of committee members, including the current committee leadership, will participate in the vote. Ranked choice voting is where you number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and you vote in the order you want them to be, and they tally that at the end so that the person with the most votes becomes the member. Number 4, if the committee becomes inactive due to a lack of membership, we had that with the excursion committee at one point. We have it right now with the furnishings committee. It is considered temporarily suspended until volunteers are recruited. And during that period, any related subcommittees shall report directly to the board. Case in point, the Furnishings Committee has a subcommittee that now is reporting directly to the board until the Furnishings Committee becomes active again. Only the board can dissolve a committee. It doesn't immediately dissolve because there are no members. The board has to officially dissolve a committee. When a new standing committee is established with 7 positions, staggered terms are required to support continuity. Typically, 2 members serve on 1-year terms, 2 members on a 2-year term, and 3 members on 3-year terms. And members serving initial 1 to 2-year terms may later serve a full 3-year term without taking a year off. Okay, any member of 75 York community is welcome to attend committee meetings. You can go visit any committee meeting you want. It's just a nice courtesy to be sure to let the chairperson know that you're coming. Okay, and then committee responsibilities and events. I think those are pretty clear. The leadership training session this year and in some previous years has provided a guideline for successful committees that really gives a lot of good details for leading a committee and participating in a committee. In May, the chairs of each committee need to submit the list of their members to the office so that it can be focused, it can be included on the organizational structure. An interesting point you may not know is that committee chairs are covered under our insurance for any liability issues. That's why the board has to have the list of who the chairpersons are and who the committee members are. So the board approves all of that, and then you're covered by insurance. And the committee chairs, of course, schedule the meetings and other things. The committee secretaries know what they're supposed to do. And the committees that organize meetings, programs, or events need to follow the established procedures for reservations and use of the CAT, the social room, the fireside room, the 3rd floor meeting room, the boardroom, and the North Plaza. That's a new one that we've added. They shall coordinate with the Director of Activities and Services regarding room setup, publicity, and so forth. Committees are always responsible to provide their own volunteers for ushering and for cleanup. Any exception to these rules should be reviewed and approved by the Board of Directors. And then lastly, we added another category. And this has been in existence for a long time, but we've never really focused on it, and that is interest groups. And interest groups are not committees. Interest groups can be formed by any member of our community. They can have the interest group, of course, in their apartment for any meetings or discussions. Interest groups are also free to reserve the social room for their groups' meetings, because the social room is really the extended living room for all of us. We often can't have 15 or 20 people in our apartments, but we can reserve the social room. And all you do as the head of the interest group is go on the portal and reserve the social room. That's all you need to do. And when you do reserve the social room, you are free as an interest group to make a small publicity statement, like an 8.5 by 11 page, advertising what your event is if you want other people to join you in the social room. And that finished publicity piece needs to go to the front office where it's initialed, and then it can be hung on the bulletin board. For instance, we have several churches that have interest groups that have like a monthly meeting in the social room, and I know the one that I'm a part of, it's just us members who usually attend that get the invitation, but there could be something put on the bulletin board where anybody who would like to attend our monthly gathering, it would be welcome to do so. But the interest groups do not generally have a reporting relationship with the board or committees. The one time that they would have a relationship with the board is if they expect more than 50 people to attend an event in the social room. Social room's not big enough for that. So an interest group may request the use of the CAC, but to do that, they have to submit a request to the board. And that's what your other sheet is that you have, the request from a non-7500 York cooperative group. And that form would be filled out and turned into the board, could be turned into the front desk, it would get to the board. And the board would want a little synopsis of what the activities are, what the program's going to be, so that the board can approve that. You would want to check first with the schedule for the CAC to see if the date or dates that you want are open. If they're open, make the request to the board, and the board can approve that group using the CAC. An example would be that the worship planning group, which is an interest group, has had worship services in here for Advent and other special religious occasions. And that's the process to go through now for reserving the CAC for those meetings. I know they wanted to have one earlier, and the CAC had already been booked for the date, so it wasn't available. But that's that process. The other thing is that the interest groups include any type of group that's organized by somebody who's willing to organize it or that has a particular interest. Two other interest groups that I don't think we've ever thought of as interest groups are the Readers Theater and the 7500 York Choir. Those aren't committees. Those are groups of people who have a particular interest. The Readers Theater group has existed for several years, And many of you remember Nancy Lee, who used to write the dialogues, and she directed it and so forth. And when she passed away, then Shar Jensen and David Swanson stepped up and volunteered to lead the group. So it kept going, and they did a couple of programs a year. To request a program, they would go to the Music and Arts Committee to see if they would sponsor that date. But it's an interest group. And as long as there is somebody to direct the Readers Theater, it will exist. I don't know if Shar is going to continue it. She did it solo this last spring when the Readers Theater group met, but if she's not able to do it another year, if we don't have somebody else volunteer to lead it, that interest group is just dormant. Same thing with the 7500 York Choir. When we have a director who's volunteering and willing to do it, we'll have a choir. We had a choir prior to COVID. When COVID shut everything down, the choir went dormant, and it didn't resurrect in the year after either. It just kind of didn't exist. There wasn't somebody to direct it. And then when Wendy Baklavoy and Artist Nelson moved in, they were willing to both be directors of the choir. And that existed until this past winter, when Artist moved to St. Cloud, and Wendy announced that she wasn't able to continue another year. We are very fortunate. There is a new resident coming in who has volunteered to direct the choir, so we will have a York choir again. That's a volunteer position that determines whether or not there's going to be that particular interest group. Then we have the fact that events organized by interest groups are not considered official 7500 York cooperative events. And in the publicity, they need to be identified as sponsored by interested residents. And all publicity materials would have that statement on there. The publicity can be posted on the bulletin boards. If the group is scheduled for the CAC, they can go through the whole gray sheet process to have publicity and everything else associated with that. The other thing about interest groups is that they are not going to be provided audiovisual service by our team of 7,500 York audiovisual specialists. The interest group would need to have a member of their own take the training with the AV specialists here so that we know that they are knowledgeable on how to use York TV, if that's a part of it, or the microphones and so forth. If any interest groups raise funds, then they have the ability to decide how they want to use those funds. I'm thinking that that's true of even some subcommittees. For instance, the card recycling group raises money from the sale of their cards, and they choose how to use that money. Anyway, that's what the board approved this week for committees and interest groups. Do you have any questions? One question. Microphone?
Thank you for
Rhiannon,
waiting.
this might be a moot question, but can an interest group distribute flyers to each mailbox in the building on their own? In other words, you said they could put something on the bulletin board. Could they also publicize by putting a flyer in people's mailboxes?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so, because we have had experience with groups putting information that is not 7,500 York Cooperative sponsored into mailboxes, and that has not been allowed. So an interest group probably could not do that. I would say no, they couldn't do that. Good point, though, to have addressed in this. Any other questions?
So membership in the committees, you go 3 years, 1 year off, then you sign up for another 3 years, and I thought that was it, a total of 6 years. But the way you explain it is you could go on after taking a year off, yet another 3 years. Is that true?
That's true. The one exception is the board of directors. You're not allowed to serve on the board of directors for more than 6 years. Then you're done forever. Even if you want to stay on the board, you can't. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you did. Oh, this is, wait, where's my agenda? Here. I'm good, thanks. I do have a microphone. You can leave that one here because Dave's coming up. Thanks, Rianne. You can see that took a lot of work to come up with that policy, and we really appreciate Rianne is our policy specialist, I would say. So now we're going to move on to talk about the plaza, and before Roger talks about the furniture and everything that's going on out there, I had asked David if he would please talk about the money that we spent to buy the furniture, etc. So, David? Thank you.
I'll give them the short answer.
Thank you.
Actually, there's a second question you wanted me to talk about. I'll do
Yes.
that too. The North Plaza furniture was not out of our annual operating budget. That was in the reserve plan. And I believe that was put in when the whole demolition of the North Plaza took place. Somebody said, we better start putting some money aside so we have something nice out there to replace it with. So that was covered in the reserve. There is going to be one exception. I don't know if Roger's going to talk about it. There was a request by some residents for some special furniture, and that was accompanied by a $3,000 anonymous donation for those three pieces of furniture. And the board did approve those. So if you see 3 new pieces coming out there, that didn't come out of your pocket, it didn't come out of the reserve, it came from an anonymous donor, and we thank that donor for that very much. So, any questions on that? Who is it? It's anonymous. Hello? What was the question, Mary? Oh, the 3 pieces.
Roger's going to talk about that.
Roger's got to talk about that. I don't want to steal his thunder. He's got to close the show here.
Yep.
The other question was, some people have wondered about the van. And since I'm the treasurer and I look at the money, I don't make the final decisions. The board does with my input. The question was, why don't we quit screwing around and buy a new van instead of having to deal with repairs for the old van? Everybody understand the question? It's a very legitimate, fair question. It's not a straightforward answer. There is money in the reserve plan, and they found out when they priced getting a new van, and it has to be new because nobody's got to use one for sale that you'd want to buy. It was quite a bit more than what was in the reserve. It was $140,000 to buy a new van, and I'm sure that when they adjust the reserve this year later, that price increase on the van will go into the reserve. Is that fair to say, George? Thank you. The other thing that you may not know is when you buy a new van, guess what comes with that? Higher insurance. So you want the cost of a new van, you're going to have to bear the cost of higher insurance. And finally, the thing you may not know No, I should, there's two things. The other thing is, York Gardens, who doesn't use their van very much, has graciously made their van available to us when we need it as much as they can, and they do that for no charge. Very nice neighbor. And finally, if you want to buy a new van, that van has only 30,000 miles on it. It's a shame to spend 140 grand for a 30,000 mile vehicle. So they will eventually at some point buy a new van, but since we have a backup, since the cost is higher than what's in the reserve, and a number of other reasons, we're not going to get a new van probably for a while. Any questions on that? I knew it. Somebody would have a question. Somebody want to get Joe a mic?
I would just say that there is always more than two choices. One, keep and put it in the old van, buy a new van. Buying a new van is expensive and you have new insurance. I get all that. Well, there's other options, and that is leasing. I like the fact that we will be able to use the Gardens van, and that's a nice backup, but it's not always there for a backup, as you probably have noticed this month, how many times we didn't have the van in the morning, in the afternoon. So what I'm talking about is leasing, where you have a fixed cost and it takes care of your oil, all your upkeep on your machine. So you have a fixed cost. That's all I want to mention, is that at least that is another consideration at some point, and we don't have to jump to the expense of a brand new van.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, it came up in our discussion that the Health and Wellness Committee also, I believe, has already or will be putting out information also on members on how they can order Lyft or Uber. You know, that's always available if you need it, whether you have a van or not. And you may need that if you have to go to an area outside of where the van is able to go anyway. So there are a lot of options. We want that van available as much as we can, obviously.
David,
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so the York Gardens lets us use their van right now?
They already have over
Yeah.
the last year,
Well, so why not-
assuming it's available,
Yeah.
that they don't need it.
So why didn't you change the name of the van and put York Gardens and our name, 7,500, and then share the cost?
Good, excellent question, Monica. That came up in the board meeting.
Oh, it did?
There's a couple of problems with that. Now you have two different companies.
Repeat the question.
Oh, the question is, essentially, why don't we share ownership of one van with York Gardens? Is that a fair statement? I think the biggest two reasons are, first of all, we're two totally different organizations. And who covers the insurance, who covers the payments, it could get messy. And if there's an accident, who gets sued, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Good question, though.
Why does a 30,000 mile van have so many repair requirements?
I can't answer that, except that city driving is a lot, and short drives are a lot harder on a vehicle than long highway drives. So my assumption is that that's more wear and tear on the van. But still, 30,000 miles is low.
I have another comment is, there are a couple, if you're going to have to use the Uber, I go to St. Louis Park, you probably are going to cost $20 or $25 now for a round trip for one doctor's appointment. So there ends up being a cost to the 7,500 residents. But there is something else I wanted to mention, that Metro Mobility, if you qualify for that, they have an iHail. You pay $5, and iHail pays, Metro pays the next $15 of that trip. And that's what I use if the van isn't going now, so I don't have to spend so much money. A lot of people can qualify for it. I think if they have, I'm legally blind, but if they have trouble walking or if there's issues or a certain age, I think there's a lot of people here who could qualify for it. And it is called T Plus Ride. Those are the vehicles that come and pick you up. They look to me very much like the Uber vehicles.
Excellent point, Joe. And yes, you do have to be qualified to take Metro Mobility. Your doctor can qualify you for that, but it's an excellent option. Yes, thank you. That's it. I would like to turn it back to Linda.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, we have one more thing to talk about tonight, and that is Roger, who's going to come up and talk about the guidelines for the plaza. And we have I'll pull up the schematic too while you get started. I'll wait for you to get here, sorry.
Thank you, Linda. This ad hoc committee is an example of a committee that was appointed to furnish the North Plaza, and we got the furniture in April, and many of us on the committee thought our work was done. But here we are approaching July, and we are still at it because other things have come to light that we need to take care of. We have the guidelines that you all have that we've developed so that we have some way to manage the activities on the North Plaza. And the guidelines themselves are still not complete, and I'll get into that. We have 3 items in the guidelines that need further development. But I'll go through them, and then we'll take questions. The North Plaza will be available for use by members from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. No activities are allowed on the North Plaza between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Members who move chairs and tables are responsible for returning them to their designated placements. And there is a schematic. Do we have that up there?
Yep.
You do. Okay. You can see the schematic. The schematic does not indicate where the chairs are because they are movable. But you can see the gazebo. You can see the planters where the designated dining area is. The fire table is in place, but it needs to be oriented north and south, and those are the tables that will go around it rather than between it and the building. So that's not totally complete either, but that's a rough idea. And you can see where the outlets are and where the outlets or the faucets are available for hoses and so forth. At least it's the beginning of a drawing that we'll further develop. Members who move any furniture must lift them and not drag them so you don't damage the surface. Members may open the umbrellas by using the crank. Members must clean up after themselves after using the North Plaza. The grill. The grill is managed by Men of York. A mat must always be used under the grill to protect the surface. The Men of York announced the days the grill is available for use by members. And sign-up sheets are available outside the office for you to sign up for using the grill when they're available. Members who use the grill are responsible for cleaning the grill after using it. We also have some issues with the grill in terms of changing the LP bottles, which we're going to be working on. We'll be developing that. I'm talking to Men of York about how we're going to do that. And we will be further refining that particular aspect of the guidelines. The popcorn maker is managed also by the Men of York. A mat must always be used under the popcorn maker to protect the plaza surface. The fire table is another area that we're working on that needs to be developed. We would like to develop a list of people who have experience operating the fire table. I know of a couple, Daryl over here in the first row is one of them. We'd like to get your names. Anyone that's been able to use the fire table and knows how to use it, we'd like to have your name given to our committee. We're going to develop a list of those people, and then we'd like to schedule some training sessions where those people could train other members on how to use the fire table. It's not a complicated operation, and the instructions are on the table itself. Also, Michael has prepared a instruction sheet that's going to be laminated and put on the table, so it'll be available with the table. And then eventually we'll have a list of members who are trained and qualified to use the fire table. We'll have that list in the green book outside the office. So if you want to use the fire table and you don't know how to use it, you can go to that list and find a member who knows how to use it, and you can consult with that member or members and use the fire table. So that also is in development stage. We hope to get that done soon. Moving on, all maintenance and alterations to the placement of furnishings is performed under the direction of Michael Ordorf, the Director of Property. Any issues with maintenance or placement should be reported to Michael, the Director of Property. Activities, and this is important. Game pieces for checkers, chess, and cornhole are now available for checkout at the security desk. All game pieces must be checked back into the security desk when you're finished using them. The cost to replace any missing game pieces will be billed to the member. So make sure you get all those pieces returned. Committees and subcommittees sponsoring events on the North Plaza must first request a reservation for the plaza either via the member portal or through the office. Michael Ordorf, the Director of Property, will review and approve reservation requests as appropriate. Committees must also submit a gray sheet to Kara Crow, the Director of Resident Activities and Services, no later than the 15th of the month preceding the event, much like you would do for the CAC and other spaces. Gray sheets give instructions for all internal publicity, I should say, monthly calendar, coming events, posters, etc., setup instructions, and AV support. Committees must provide all the information requested on the gray sheet. Setup instructions can be given by using a diagram of the North Plaza available from Kara, the Director of Resident Activities and Services. Dining. The dining area is separated by the flower planters that you can see on the diagram and is reserved for York Room diners during meal times. Security. Security staff is responsible for collapsing the umbrellas in the evening and for inclement weather. Security staff is responsible for checking out and checking in the game pieces. Members are requested to report any suspicious activity to the on the North Plaza to the security staff. These guidelines have been approved by the board as of June 24th. As I said, we've got these additional items to further develop. So you'll be getting final guidelines eventually, hopefully in the next month, if we can get everything done that we need to get done. And I think, one other thing, we do have also another area of the guidelines we need to develop. We do have a TV and a stand. We have not developed guidelines for using that, but that's going to be available for use on the plaza as well. We just need to work out with management how that's going to be checked out and returned and where it's going to be stored. So that would be another aspect of the guidelines that we need to finalize. So we got three things, the changing the LP bottles, the fire table, and the TV to work out as yet. But this will give you at least a beginning. These guidelines are, of course, never set in stone. The board will review any need for changing these guidelines, updating them, revising them. We can do that at any board meeting in the future. So I would also open it up for questions at this point in time. David? Oh, yes. Dave is reminding me to cover the $3,000 donation from the anonymous donor. And we did receive that. We decided, recommended that we buy two 60-inch benches in order to accommodate almost anyone because of the chairs sometimes are too small for some people. The benches will accommodate any size of person. And we're also going to acquire a fifth glider chair, swivel glider chair for the gazebo. So those will be the three items that we'll be acquiring for the $3,000 donation. We want to thank the donor for that, who wants to remain anonymous. Anything else?
Yeah,
Yes.
Roger, first of all, kudos to the committee for this wonderful plaza. I think we should give them a hand.
Oh, thank you. Let me acknowledge the committee members because I think they deserve acknowledgement. Carol Alden, Alice Holzer, Rhiann Leaf, Kathy Lindquist, Kathy Erberg, and Glenn Wallace, all hardworking committee members.
And you.
And I have served as chair, as I said earlier, our committee continues to work. We'll continue until the board determines that our work is done.
Okay, two comments. Number one, I totally understand the reason for not dragging those chairs on the surface. However, I think it's totally unrealistic to think that people are going to pick them up and move them. I don't think there are 10 people who live in this building who are capable of doing that. And if there are, I'm not one of them. Okay, first, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Supposedly, the chairs should be the only thing we're moving, and they're supposed to be moved with one person on each side. Two people should be able to move a chair.
Two people could do it. I think I agree with that.
That's what we're told.
Okay.
And you should do that because the Puma surface is a waterproof surface that's been applied out there. We don't want to damage that, and we spend a lot of money waterproofing the surface
Yes,
in order to
understand.
prevent water intrusion into the garage. We don't want any repeats of water intrusion in the garage. We had enough of that for many years.
My second point, if there are going to be events where the new television is used as the principal source of the entertainment, we need an auditorium-like setting of chairs, and that can't be the chairs that need to be moved from where they normally are placed. We need probably folding chairs. Is there a way that folding chairs can be arranged out there as part of the setup for the event?
That's going to have to be worked out with management in terms of extra chairs that can be used on the plaza. And we don't know it. I can't answer that today, but that will be considered by management and the committee and the board.
You have a question? Carol wants to speak.
Did you have a question?
I just have a comment, really. The chairs are so heavy, and have you got a place to store them in the winter, or are they going to be outside?
The reason we bought by-the-yard chairs is they can stay on the plaza all year round. We don't want to have to move them and store them, and those chairs are guaranteed to stand up in any kind of weather. They're heavy enough so they don't blow around in the wind, and they can withstand the winter, so they'll be out there all year round.
And we have a 15-year warranty.
15-year warranty.
15-year warranty on
Well, say that again.
15-year warranty.
Oh, yeah. They do have a 15-year warranty as well. So.
I just have a comment too. We were out eating dinner with, I don't know, were we with you, Ramona and Vince? Anyway, 4 of us. And Mitch came by because we were told not to move the chairs. And so I asked him, and he said, we can move the chairs. And he said, we can drag the chairs.
Oh.
No, you cannot
Okay.
drag the chairs.
He did say that. And he said he didn't want people.
Who told you that?
Mitch.
Oh, no.
And he also talked
Michael
about,
has,
he
Michael,
also talked about the communication, that people
Okay.
are saying this
Well-
and people are saying that. And he said that.
I have to point out the guidelines to him because
Yeah.
these come from working with Michael and by the yard.
Okay, yeah, I think everybody needs to know the
We'll talk to
guidelines.
Mitch.
Yep.
Hi. You talked about mats under the grill and the popcorn machine. Where are those stored, or are they under these apparatuses all the time, and we just need to ensure that the mat is there?
I couldn't hear what the question is again.
You mentioned there are mats that need to be placed
The
under
mats
the
are
grill.
with, Men of York have the mats for the grill and the popcorn maker. They were given the mats.
So if we want to use that
They
on the
should,
spur
they
of the
should
moment?
come, they should be with the grill and the popcorn maker. They have them now.
Okay, I thought you said the Men of York have them?
Yes, the Men of York were given the mats by
So before I
Michael.
use the grill, I need to contact
And the Men of York put the grill out there and they will be using the popcorn maker, so the mat should be there.
I just can't go down there and use the grill when I want to?
You can use the grill when the Men of York put it out and announced the grill is available for sign up outside the office as they do now.
And you're not talking about open grill?
No.
We're talking about using the grill when the Men of York put it out and allow you to use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Is that it?
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. No. Mm-mm. All right, do you have any general, oh, she turned off my mic. Do you have any general questions, anything else you want to ask before we sign off and say goodnight? All right, well, thank you very much for coming and for your attention. We appreciate it.